Welcome to the Bookers Alliance podcast, where we hold the pencil and the pencil is power. Coming at you right now is your host, Marky Mark, along with the man, the myth, the legend, Frank Donaldson. Join us as we discuss the ever-changing landscape of professional wrestling. So hang on tight, you jabronis, and enjoy the ride. Hey, welcome in, everybody. Thank you for joining the Bookers Alliance podcast today. And man, oh man, has it been a day. It has been a day of days. So this podcast is brought to you by our friend, Mr. Jack Daniels.
Yes, JD. So he is supporting the podcast tonight, or he's carrying us through one way or the other.
One way or the other. How's your day been, Frank?
So far, so good. I mean, we're getting ready to talk some good wrestling here. One of my favorite types of shows that we do. Something that we originated, something that we brought to the forefront to make popular, and apparently everybody else is picking up on it and trying to run away with us without giving credit where credit's due.
You're talking about old Mr. Bischoff, ain't you?
Looks like that, and him and that gnarly somebody Conrad Thompson there, who they call the Pod Father. But we're on his tails. We're on his heels right now. We're nipping at his heels.
Yeah, so Eric, man, just give us a shout out, man. Just pay the dues. That's all we ask.
I mean, we get it. Okay, yeah, you listen, and like we all say, wrestling borrows from wrestling. I get it, but they also say flattery is imitation is the best form of flattery. So go ahead and you don't have to give us all the flowers, but I mean, put a little rose in your cap for the old Bookers Alliance here and let them know that. They're inspiring a whole new genre of podcasting here.
All right, so today's episode, we're going to talk about FBI.
FBI, full-blooded Italians.
The FBI.
Federal
Bureau of Investigation.
Is
it that FBI?
I hope not. They can't put a RICO on me now. We're not going for that.
Female body inspectors.
Yes. So please.
We're talking about Tori, Stacy, no.
I nominate myself for that position wholeheartedly. Yes, sir.
No, ladies and gentlemen, what we're actually talking about today is FBI, Fantasy Booking Invasion. We are the Bookers Alliance, so today is one of our fantasy booking episodes, and we're going to spin an angle that it's been done, but not the way that we're going to talk about it.
Now, so we talked about the Eric Bischoff podcast, 83 weeks. Last week, couple weeks ago, whenever it was, they did a fantasy book episode about the NWO, how to change up the NWO, keep it from dying. And this past week, they just said on their current podcast that was they've been getting feedback that was one of their best episodes ever. I mean, that's kind of the first thing we can say considering.
Right.
But we're doing things a little bit different. They go back in the past and use, the benefit of hindsight and things like that to rebook where they kind of made errors and things like that. But that isn't what we do here. We go in the future. We'll show you what to do going forward. If you want to break the internet, you want to send the ratings off the charts, you follow our path here and go frontwards thinking.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let me talk to you.
So
we like LA Knight here, by the way.
Absolutely. And if you're out there, keep pushing. Push. Put that rocket on that man.
Push like a pregnant woman on the table. Push.
All right. So our fantasy booking episode today, FBI, Fantasy Booking Invasion, we're going to talk about what would happen if the Elite from AEW was to try to pull off an invasion angle like the Radicals pulled off back in the day. So Frank, give us some history.
We're going to talk about that?
Yeah, give us some history about the Radicals and what happened there.
Man, I mean, I still remember it like it was yesterday. Chris Benoit, Eddie Guerrero, Perry Saturn, and Dean Malenko came on over from WCW, 8 days after Chris Benoit won the WCW World title.
Yep.
I mean, they popped up on WWE TV, and unlike, previous chances where things like that had come up, WWE referenced them directly as who they are, indirectly referenced where they're from, and went into the whole what are they doing here thing. And them guys came in and they took over kind of like the NWO, but kind of not, right? Because, the NWO, when Scott Hall did his thing, I mean, that was groundbreaking. That was like, oh my God, what in the world is happening right now? Never seen anything done to that level before. But when the Radicals did it, I mean, they came in as a group, a strong group of known top performers for the competition. So, I mean, that was big.
And you got the oh my God, who are these guys? What are they doing here? You got that whole angle, and then, come to find out they were, the whole WCW, they came in trying to make a mark for themselves within the WWE.
Yeah.
And, that whole angle itself was kind of played up and was fairly pulled off. It pulled off pretty decent.
So they definitely did it a lot better than they did the Invasion later on when they actually bought WCW and got a lot of low tier talent and, didn't really get any of the main eventers to break open the Invasion. This was a little bit different because, if you weren't on the inside, if you weren't reading the dirt sheets and all that, you didn't know these guys were coming.
You had no clue.
Everyone in WCW knew, or everyone in wrestling knew WCW was coming because they had already been purchased on TV. The whole angle with Shane McMahon had been done. They had already talked about that. So you kind of knew when it happened, like, hey, we already knew this was a thing. When the Radicals came over, no one knew that was a thing. No. I mean, there were WWE already at that point had 90-day non-complete clauses and things like that. So you just saw Chris Benoit winning the WCW title just a few days prior to their entrance. You just saw that happen. You just saw all four of these guys on pay-per-view, a handful of days earlier. Now all of a sudden they're on WWE TV. They're getting in a WWE ring. It's like, well, my goodness, what's going on here? But, hey, Eazy-E and his all-knowing, geniusness thought to say, anybody who wants to leave WCW scot-free, let me know. Well, them four guys threw their hands up real quick.
Yep.
And them four guys were gone.
Yep. All right. So in our version of this fantasy booking, we're booking the Elite instead of the Radicals, and the Elite, who we're classifying as Kenny Omega, the Young Bucks, and Hangman Page.
Yep.
Okay. So our story spins out of current events that's going on right now.
Yep, and future upcoming events.
Right. So right now, the basis of our fantasy booking is it's kind of anchored in the current Brock Cody feud that's going on, and of course they're leading up to their rubber match at SummerSlam, and we are booking this in a way of Cody gets in the match with Brock. The match is going Cody's way. Brock spins it around, but Cody's trying to prevail. All of a sudden, Cody hits he hits a bionic elbow. He hits, the crossroads on Brock, 1, 2, maybe 3 times, and he's getting ready to go for the pin. And then all of a sudden, somebody starts making their way down to the ring.
Yep. I mean, hey, there's not a better way to start an angle like that, because at that point you put a spotlight on the guy, all eyes turn. It's about as big as when AJ debuted at the Royal Rumble, when they had a designated spot for him. You've got, where everything just stops, and that brings anytime a guy comes in that way against, a main event program like Cody versus Brock, he's an automatic main eventer. He's a top guy. So he's not coming in as, a fan that just stumbled out of the ring or, nonsense like that. It's like, hey, wait a minute, I'm getting ready. Cody's getting ready to win what could possibly be the biggest win of his career. And, he just stands up and stares off into the ether up there. Like I said, at that point, either he's afraid or, there's just ultimate like shock and awe.
Yeah.
Either which way it goes, though, I mean, everybody that's watching, if you're in the know, your jaw's on the floor. I mean, because you're like, what the, who the hell is that? What the hell is he doing? That kind of thing. Or if you're not in the know, let's just say you're a casual fan. Well, you've seen Kenny Omega on the other program, at least some.
His body. His body type.
Yeah, you've seen the Bucks before. You know what I mean? So you see those silhouettes coming. You're like, hey, wait a minute, something's going on up there. Well, now all your attention's turned right there. You made those guys top guys. They're big names in the company. Whereas, you debut them in a match or something like that, they're just whatever. So you can't do it in a match.
So maybe you get the guy coming down to stop Cody from winning, causes the interference. Of course, Brock, slinks off to the background as Brock would do. And then the next thing you know, you've got 4 shrouded figures beating up Cody in the ring in SummerSlam. And then, maybe that's how, SummerSlam, maybe goes off the air or, fades out to a different segment. But then, Monday Night Raw, Cody's out there in the ring doing his promo going, who are these guys? I want to know who it is. I want to kick their ass, yada, yada, yada. And then out of nowhere, Carry On My Wayward Son plays.
There you go. I mean, well, so let's be honest. WWE ain't paying for that.
No, they won't pay for the song.
So that ain't going to happen. But
Vince would go, that don't work for me, bro.
Yeah, he's going to say, hold on, that costs what now?
That costs how much money?
Right. Y'all got some generic music in the playlist. That might be
Carry On My Favorite Boy or something.
There you go. There's some generic music in the playlist somewhere. They got Jimmy Hart on retainer to come in and write something real quick. But yeah, something happens. Even if you don't really play any music, you could just put a graphic up on the Titan that Cody would recognize, like the Elite or being the Elite. That's a Bucks thing. That's BTE. Not an AEW thing. So you put BTE up there, and put four silhouettes in front of it or something like that. Something that gives Cody that trigger in his mind of, hey, what's going on? What is that? Let's say you open Raw with that. You don't have to pay that off for 3 hours. Well, now you got to keep the fans there for 3 hours because you see something like that. And again, if you're in the know, if you're watching Monday Night Raw, there's a groundswell going on around this whole AEW thing, and that you see something like BTE and then 4 silhouettes and then nothing. And then all of a sudden they go to commercial and Cody's gone. Well, you're stuck. You ain't going nowhere for them 3 hours. So you've got those people for 3 hours at minimum. And you're probably going to bring in a lot of the other AEW. And that's why you want to do that. That way you got time for the 2 million people that watch Raw to communicate to all their friends like, holy hell, I don't believe what I just saw. I can't. It's impossible. It's unfair. You got to watch.
Yep.
Well, then they're going to turn it on. Well, now you got 3 million, 4 million people watching. Now all of a sudden you broke the internet because the internet's going crazy. Google's all over the place. Twitter, which is now called X, I guess I've heard recently.
He's trying to.
Yeah, right. Anywho, all of a sudden X is like X'd out because they're like, what the hell's going on here? And Threads is stripping because the threads are running thin because they're like, holy hell, what BTE on RAW?
Yep.
What do you do with that? I mean, as a fan, you die inside. I mean, your soul just got removed from your body as it watches the TV next to you.
So do we get the full reveal by the end of that Raw episode? Is that what we get, or do they stretch it out for another week?
For the benefit of the podcast, let's say we get enough of it at the end of the show, right? Okay. So because we don't want to stretch this out for the next 2 weeks, which although we could, but let's just say like we don't get the characters. Like let's say the guys never come out, but let's say towards the end of the night, the BTE thing happens and it's still on the graphic and Cody comes out there and says, I want to know, blah, blah, blah. Well, why not have, let's say the BTE all of a sudden you pop up on Cody's bus that we know is sitting outside with Brandy and the baby in there. Brandy and the baby, well, not the baby, but Brandy works with those guys. So so it's not that far out of the realm of possibility to use her in this instance, even though she's trying to stay off camera. But hey, this is that time where you can introduce her and it makes sense to the story. You just have those 4 guys go into the bus, and Brandy comes storming out of the back room like, what the hell are you guys doing here? What is this? Who are you guys? And they pull down their hoods just enough for her to see.
Yep.
Like where nobody else see. Yeah, at this point, Cody sees it happening on the Titantron, so he goes storming out to the back. And, by the time he gets back there, they're gone. He gets in the bus and Brandy's just sitting there with this shocked, stunned look on her face. And he gets in there, babe, what happened? Who were those guys? And she say, it was, boom, fade to black.
Fade to black.
Exactly. You don't have to say anything else. Yep. Well, now, if I wasn't already intending to watch SmackDown on Friday, now I'm watching SmackDown on Friday.
Hell, I might be watching NXT.
It's like you don't give me nothing on SmackDown on Friday. You got a whole Bloodline storyline to talk about on that. You make it come to Raw the next week, and Raw the next week, You start off the same way. Cody comes out there. I know who you were. Brandy told me who you guys were. So why don't you come out here and tell all the fans who you are before I tell you who
and
you
then
are.
we get the unveil. We start getting it. So
you know how they should do the unveil?
How's that?
Take the same Titantron screen with the 4 guys up there, and kind of like how AEW made them fade away when they had the whole CM Punk issue. You fade them in individually, one by one. Hangman, $1, $2, Kenny Omega, and as soon as that happens, their music plays, and all 4 of them guys pop out of the scene. The fans are dying right now. I mean, they're exploding. They're hanging from the rafters, as Gorilla Monsoon used to say. I mean, they're all over the place. The crowd, the roar is deafening. Cody's just standing there, just like, he's angry, he's incensed, but still shocked. And by the time they come out there, they get their whole fanfare. Now, they don't come to the ring. They got to stay up top because we don't need any physicality just yet. But, when all that hoopla stops, Cody just says, what the hell are you guys doing here? What is this? And, and they tell you know what this is. You know exactly what you did this a couple years ago. So you know what's going on.
Yep. So, it starts to unfold. Of course, this all started in our fantasy booking. This all started at SummerSlam. So we're going to carry this on to the Survivor Series PLE. And we're going to let it unfold throughout the weeks as the Elite continue to, just decimate Cody every week, beat him down, be the fool to his, the face. And along the way, Cody's going to start picking up some allies in this fight. Whoever the allies could be, for this sake, let's just say it's going to be Kevin Owens, Sami Zayn, and Seth Rollins.
Yeah. I mean, they're already kind of working with that angle anyway with Seth right now on Raw with the Judgment Day.
Right.
Or whoever else needs help. This past week they need, they sent out Sami Zayn to go help. And Sami Zayn got demolished. KO is apparently injured, so, he got demolished. I mean, they're kind of already doing that, so it's not that far-fetched to see those guys work together anyway. So you just put them in that angle against the Elite. I mean, they're all friends anyway. I mean, let's keep it real. Let's pull the curtain back all the way for those who aren't already aware. I mean, KO and Sammy are already good friends with these guys. I'm sure Seth's had interactions with them before on the end. They all know each other. They know what they're dealing with. So they all, if they're smart, are going to see a lot of dollar signs tacked onto the back of this.
Absolutely.
And they're going to see a lot of main event spots for them all to be in for a while. So they should be all for it too.
Yep. So as we're building to Survivor Series, last year Survivor Series had War Games.
Yep.
So what we're going to book this into is a War Games scenario. So as we're building to Survivor Series, you've got Hangman, Kenny, Young Bucks that have all aligned together. And now you've got Cody, KO, Sammy, and Seth that have aligned together. And Cody's like, you know what? You guys can't just come in here and try to do what you're doing. We're not going to stand for it. This ain't going to happen. So we challenge you guys to War Games.
Yep.
And loser needs to stand back.
Yep.
And step off of what we're trying to do.
Yep.
So you've got all of this going on. You've got the two teams built up. And the way that I kind of see this happening is Cody would probably be your last guy in for the WWE
Yeah,
guys.
definitely.
Yeah, so, you've got Seth maybe as the anchor.
Yeah.
He's starting off everything. Maybe Kenny's the anchor for, the Elite.
Yeah, because, that's definitely a match that everybody is waiting with bated breath
Absolutely.
for. To see those two guys.
Sign me up
so
like
if we
yesterday.
Can get 2 to 3 minutes or maybe even 5 minutes of them guys just going.
Yep.
Absolutely. So, yeah, give me all of that. Yeah. I'm here for all that.
And so this ain't your blood and guts match.
No, so we don't need a lot of weapons. We don't need a lot of. But how appropriate is it that Cody's in this match that, Dusty created?
Right.
You got to tie that in somewhere. So you got some of that story. Cody's in his first official War Games.
Yep.
The match that his daddy created. So you're building all the sympathy for Cody. Biggest babyface reaction you could possibly hope for. And yeah, you line him right up against the leader, the quote unquote leader of the outlaw faction, Kenny Omega. I mean, again, you're giving the fans what they want. You're taking those diehard fans. I mean, you're just you got them frothing at the mouth at this point. They can't even contain themselves. They're so excited. And even the lay fans, you might not be familiar with the Elite. After 2 minutes of watching Kenny Omega work,
You're gonna be
you're
familiar.
bought in. You're like,
Yeah.
well, hell, what's going on here?
That dude's awesome.
This looks good. I want to see more.
Yep.
I mean, so you got your platform, you got your jump off platform right there.
Yep. So the match is going on. It's hot and heavy. Everybody is angling for position. Everybody is trying to win it for their team. You get everybody in, and of course, that's when the match officially starts.
There you go. The match beyond.
The match beyond.
All right.
So we get going in there. Everybody's laying the beat down on each other, and then all of a sudden, you got Kenny and Seth maybe kind of singled out. You got everybody else is kind of beaten down. They're kind of in the background. And all of a sudden, Seth has Kenny lined up for the pedigree.
Okay.
He's got him lined up. He's ready to lock. It's going. And then out of nowhere, that camera shot you see where Cody sneaks up behind Seth. Gets that sneaky little smile on his face, grabs him, puts him in the crossroads. Kenny floats over for the pin. 1, 2, 3, and the Elite are your winner.
Yep, and now you've got the full Elite, with not like the NWO with the third man, but now you've got the full Elite with the fifth man.
The fifth man.
I mean, and so so Cody, then Monday Night Raw, Cody could come out and say, "Hey, I started this a couple years ago. We had this planned out from day one.
I was the beginning.
Yeah,
of the
I had to come in and I warmed the plate up for the guys to come in. Now we're ready to come hit home runs." And then while they're doing that interview, of course, Seth, being the front runner, the leader of Monday Night Raw, would come out there to, "You guys screwed us," and blah, blah, blah. Well, now you've got an automatic program planned with Cody and Seth for the World Heavyweight Championship, which we know Cody's been kind of earmarked for at some level anyway.
Yep.
Because he ain't getting on that SmackDown title. he ain't going to win that. So.
And then you ride this on into the Rumble.
I mean, you carry this to WrestleMania if you want. I mean, you could honestly put Cody and Seth, they could have that little square off, but you could actually have the Kenny versus Seth match at the Rumble, and then have Cody go on to win the Rumble again. I mean, we've seen it happen before where guys have won 2 years in a row. Cody wins it again, automatically challenges Seth. Well, we've booked we booked from SummerSlam to WrestleMania in 15 minutes?
Yep.
I mean, my goodness, there's so much filler we could fill in with the four guys. We haven't used the Bucks and Hangman yet
at all.
We've got many places to put them where we could do, but I mean, that setup is so intriguing.
Yep.
You just got to get that out there first because, I mean, again, you want to put wrestling back where it was in the Attitude Era. Follow this program.
Oh, absolutely.
Could you imagine if they did the same thing that we booked for the Bloodline 2 weeks ago, and they did this alternatively? That would put AEW and WWE back up to 7-8 million viewers a week.
Yep.
It'd be a real challenge. It'd be a real, Monday Night War, whatever you want to call it. I mean, it'd make wrestling bigger than wrestling's probably ever been at this point.
And then you can, the storyline branches off from there, and we could take this for on and on and on, but kind of where we'll stop the fantasy booking is Cody kind of, after beating Seth for the title, Cody comes out and says, "Y'all thought there was a different story that I was here to finish.
Yeah.
This was the story.
Right. I'm finishing the story that I started.
Right.
That I think we're going to see on his biography. I think we're going to get a little snippet of it next week. So when you're watching that biography, keep in mind, we're recording this before that airs, so before the 31st of July. When you're watching that biography, just think about what we just told you right here today. Watch how some of that plays out and just look at how the seeds could be planted. Now, keep in mind, we're in no way, shape, or form saying that any of this is going to happen.
We have no knowledge of anything that could happen. This is just what we do in our minds about, the fantasy aspect of wrestling and what we could see happen.
Yeah. So again, if it does happen, then we're foreshadowing, and we're also going to be playing the $1 billion lottery.
Yeah, we're gonna go get lottery tickets.
Yeah, I mean, we're not going to stop here. We're going to fantasy book that lottery win, and then you'll probably never hear from us again. Unfortunately, I'll be sorry to say you'll be hearing us either on the real radio or seeing us in the skyboxes and all the wrestling.
We'll be coming live from Rio de Janeiro.
There you go. Yeah, somewhere where there ain't as much taxes. So we'll be having a good time there. But I mean, so yeah, again, as we know, it's probably never going to happen. But if it were to happen and you think you got a better way for it to happen, which I don't think is possible, but if you think it, definitely let us know. I'm interested to hear. I mean, anytime we do a fantasy book, we're interested in hearing anybody else's take on it, throw any variation to it. Anything you got makes it more interesting. But keep in mind, at the end of the day, we're the Booker's Alliance for a reason. So chances of getting it better than we got it are probably slim, but that doesn't mean they're impossible.
As MJF says, we're better than you.
Baby.
And you know it.
You do know it. I mean, you got to know it. If you don't know it, you need to go back to the archives and listen to the podcast.
Exactly. All right, everybody. We thank you for listening to today's episode of the Booker's Alliance podcast. We've enjoyed talking with you today. And, like Frank said, reach out there and shoot us a line on our social media platforms and let us know. And with that, everybody, we bid you adieu.
Peace.
Today's podcast was produced by SBP. You can find our podcast on all major podcast platforms. Also connect with us on our social media accounts. Search for The Booker's Alliance on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.